Think back to 2008, the start of the financial crisis that came to be known as the Great Recession. People lost jobs, homes, and their life savings. This week, we'll look at how the massive meltdown left its mark on Southwest Florida. Beginning with what goes round. 10 years ago, a Fort Myers man followed a dream and opened a donut shop, only to find the economy crumble.
You're going to see businesses like this thrive when people are feeling better about the economy. This isn't a necessity. This isn't a requirement. Eating a donut is kind of a luxury.
Next up, we'll dig into the data and see how our community is recovering, checking in with locals who lost a lot.
It was really difficult, and I had 4 different jobs, and I was doing the best I could, but I was still losing.
Then, is it deja vu all over again? The stock market is going wild. An expert weighs in on a tale of 2 markets.
So if you look at the fundamentals in the economy right now, we have record corporate profits, we have low unemployment, we have relatively low interest rates. Now interest rates are going to rise a little bit, but it's still a great environment.
And turning the page, it was a magical night for people with special needs. Enjoying a prom experience, it was their time to shine. We'll have those stories along with the latest in our Positively Healthy Medical series. I'm Amy Osher, and this is Behind the Headlines. I'm Amy Osher. Thanks for joining us. Starting a new business always requires a leap of faith, but imagine investing your savings when the economy was sinking. It forced a local donut maker to roll with the punches. 10 years and counting, Bennetts Fresh Roast has been a fixture in downtown Fort Myers.
The thing I hear most often from people when they walk in the door is that they feel at home. They feel comfortable.
Starting a donut shop from scratch took Bob Grissinger out of his comfort zone.
I did the natural thing. The thing that would always be the prelude for donut making would be to be a radio disc jockey early in the morning.
By February of 2008, the former DJ had signed off from radio and inked his name on a new business with his brother-in-law.
Right at the beginning of the worst economic downturn since the Great Depression. Boom.
Fearing his venture would go bust, Bob braced for the worst.
You're going to see businesses like this thrive when people are feeling better about the economy. This isn't a necessity. This isn't a requirement. Eating a donut is kind of a luxury.
They grinded away despite the dismal downturn, priding themselves on roasting their own coffee and serving fresh donuts daily. When do you start making the donuts for tomorrow?
Donut makers start as early as 10:45 the night before.
Their varieties are now legendary in these parts. Everything from classic glaze to trendy maple bacon.
Every donut we make takes 2 hours to make. It's not something we can crank out by machine. We don't make a cake donut. We make a raised yeast bread donut. It takes a long time to make.
Over the last decade, they witnessed a rise in both the economy and the business.
We were really scared, but we never looked back. Our shop historically has never had a single month lower than the same month in the preceding years.
And 2018 is off with a bang. Bennetts upped production by 20%, and sometimes it's still not enough.
That was filled until about 10:30, 11 o'clock this morning. People feel more comfortable about the economy when things are strong and booming, or whether it's because the stock market's doing pretty well. This season's been a banner season for us.
Hard or soft economy, Bob believes his donuts are strong enough to stand the test of time.
It's a simple pleasure, but I think there's more to it than that. I think it's most important for me to make sure the quality is as high as it possibly can be.
By some accounts, Southwest Florida was ground zero for the housing meltdown. Homes were overvalued, loans were easy to get, and real estate was making people rich. Then the bottom fell out. The news press took the lead on a series of multimedia stories, putting the Great Recession into focus.
I'm Steve McQuilkin, project editor for the news press.
Steve assembled a team between the Fort Myers News Press and the Naples Daily News to take a local look at the Great Recession plus 10.
We were hit particularly hard. We were #1 in foreclosures in the entire country. So a lot of people got hit hard, and Naples followed soon after, both in foreclosures and in unemployment.
How long did it take you to get this series together?
It took us about 4 months of really hard work, and we had a lot of different people, visual people and writers involved, and it was a lot of background research.
Playing out over 10 consecutive days, the newspapers are rolling out online and in print editions stories, searchable databases, and video accounts from those who lived it. Do you find, though, it's people are ready to look back and think about it again? Because so many people are happy to have it in their rearview mirror now.
Yeah, I think it's important that we basically revisit, because a lot of people, even though when times are good you start to forget, there's still a lot of people who suffered. They're working more jobs, they're working jobs for less pay, so it's not all the same. A lot of people have been left behind. Some have been forced to retire early. Some people who graduated from college during the Great Recession have to go many years before they make up where they would have been. So there was a lot of lost ground.
Lost ground could have been the subtitle. In 2008, Lee County faced a backlog of 23,000 foreclosure cases. It was crazy, the rocket docket and things like that we had going on here.
Yeah, I mean, basically they brought in retired judges and they worked like crazy. And sometimes people would be brought in front of a judge and only ask 2 quick questions, and then bang of a gavel and their home would be transferred. In 1 month, it was 2,600 cases in 1 month.
Compare this to a few years earlier when homes were skyrocketing in value.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing, because at the time, 2003, 2004, people were showing that if it kept going up at that rate, pretty soon a modest 3-bedroom, 2-bath house in Cape Coral would be worth $1 million.
Their heads were spinning by the opportunity to make money and flipping houses and things like that, and never really considering that these prices would go down.
So we all should have seen it coming, but we didn't.
Back to present day, the economy is humming, but Steve and the reporters wanted to know where people here are in their personal recoveries.
Mike McGuigan is one of the people we talked to. He was behind some of the restaurants in downtown Fort Myers, and he actually lost his own house.
Nobody was hiring restaurant consultants to build restaurants. I was way over invested in real estate. You know, when the cash flow stopped coming in, couldn't pay the bills, and ended up losing properties and losing my home to foreclosure. The only thing I didn't lose was I had my boat, and that was paid for, and ultimately became my home.
McGuigan clawed his way back, first launching Ford's Garage in downtown Fort Myers, then expanding the concept to other sites. He's now involved in several restaurants that have redefined the River District.
He's been an amazing success story. It's just that he got hit like everybody else. No one was immune.
Such a large-scale project could not have been accomplished without people shedding their privacy and sharing their pain.
We had a lot of courageous people come forward for this project. I talked to a woman named Sue Cesar, who was just fantastic.
I think I was about 50 or so. And, you know, I was really kind of at the peak of my career.
Sue is a very upbeat person, and she's very much, you know, pull yourself up, get back to life, and go at it. And she was willing to work 4 different jobs during the Great Recession.
It was frightening. It was kind of humiliating to have to fill out applications again at that age. And I didn't work with computers, and everything was, you know, computerized, so that was a disadvantage. So yeah, it was really difficult, and I had 4 different jobs, and you know, I was doing the best I could, but I was still losing.
Sue's ultimate story is that of a survivor, dinged up like most everyone who lived it, now optimistic, cautiously optimistic. Now, how does the series end?
The final story in the series will look once again at foreclosures and where we are today and how we're a lot better than we were before.
Whenever economic news leads the news, you know something's up. That's been the case lately. A volatile stock market is making a lot of people jittery. As thoughts travel back to 2008, we invited an expert, a former Wall Street banking executive, to explain the tale of 2 markets. It's really not surprising that given what happened 10 years ago, and we're talking a lot about that today, that people might be getting a little nervous, wondering what's happening to their savings and whether this is happening all over again.
Yeah, you know, the markets over the last 2 weeks have had some very large moves. They've been very dramatic and eye-opening. And the one thing that we can conclude from this is that volatility is back. Now, when I think about 2008 versus 2018, it's interesting in the sense that it's 10 years apart. But if we go back to 2008, another interesting fact is that there was a mini crash, or not really a mini crash, was the internet bubble crash in 2000. So in one decade, there were two significant stock market events, 2000 and 2008. And at the time, it was really an aberration. You know, we thought, well, that will never happen again. And here we are 10 years later, thinking, well, maybe that's a possibility, and you certainly can't discount it.
The people can take solace in the fact that it's not necessarily this volatility based on the economy going bad or some of these companies that are being traded as having something going on in the company. It's really kind of strategies.
Yeah, the you know, what's happened with these quantitative strategies and the electronic execution, to some extent we've gotten away from fundamentals. So if you look at the fundamentals in the economy right now, we have record corporate profits, we have low unemployment, we have relatively low interest rates. Now interest rates are going to rise a little bit, but it's still a great environment. The US is really, you know, firing on all cylinders, and globally, all of the countries are quite robust. So those things are all really fantastic, and yet we see this volatility going on in the marketplace, and we're scratching our heads trying to figure out, like, why is that happening? One of the reasons that I think it's happening is because the indices themselves are much higher. And for instance, this morning I saw on the news they were saying, oh, Dow's going to open down triple digits, 100 points. And you know, 10 or 20 or 30 years ago, a 100-point drop would have been significant. But today, a 100-point drop is really like 0.4%. So I think what we have to do mentally is reset our mind around what is a big loss. Now, 1,000 points is clearly a big loss, but actually, if you look at it in percentage terms, it doesn't even rank in the 20 worst trading days in the history of the stock market.
And especially when you talk about that 100-point drop, it could be 100 points up by noon on the same day. Literally.
Yes, that's right. The volatility intraday is what is so amazing. And I think part of what's causing that is the electronification of the market. So we have different players in the marketplace that are tied to trading systems electronically. Computers can make decisions, as I said, literally in microseconds, and execute. Whereas in the past, when we had to look at a screen and make a decision and make a phone call, I mean, that on a good day would take 10 or 15 seconds.
Yeah, it slows you down at the very least.
Yeah.
Now, other people are talking about the possibility of inflation and a new Fed chairman also figuring into this. Would you agree? Well,
what's interesting, similar to 1987, there were concerns about that. We had a new Fed chairman that came in 1987. Guy by the name of Alan Greenspan, who held that post for many, many years. There were concerns about inflation, rising interest rates, widening trade deficits, and then a weakening dollar. And those things are somewhat similar. When people are concerned about inflation today, what they are concerned about is the speed at which interest rates will rise. Now, the one thing that I will say about central banks today versus, say, 10 or 30 years ago for sure, is that while they're not doing things in unison, they have very, very good communication, better than they ever had before, because I think going through the financial crisis, they realized that we're all in this global market community together, and if one country is doing very well and changes things, that has ripple effects throughout the whole system. So I have very good confidence that the Fed and their counterparts in Europe and in Asia are coordinated in the sense that nothing really silly is going to happen.
And kind of to conclude, do you expect it to keep this level of trading and volatility, or what is going to change to make it slow down and go back to what we call normal?
Yeah, well, I think, as I said, that the fact that the indices are at high levels, we are just going to have to get used to triple-digit moves. That's going to be the norm. The speed at which it's occurring, you know, those are technology-driven, and, you know, Pandora's box is open. We can't put it back in. So those things we're going to have to live with. I do think as investors, what we have to be mindful of is there's nothing really special about a market close. A market, it's open throughout the day and the value of my portfolio changes. So I think part of it is mindset and getting used to the impact that technology is happening in the market.
Very interesting. Okay, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Still ahead, it was their night to shine, and no doubt these special needs teens and adults glowed in the spotlight. The story is up after the break.
Life here is amazing, and so is the joint care. At the Total Joint Center at Physicians Regional Healthcare System, we've changed the experience of joint replacement for good. With our comprehensive joint care program, most hip and knee replacement patients return home in just 2 days, because we know you want to get on with your active life. Pain-free living starts at Physicians Regional Medical Center, Collier Boulevard, and Physicians Regional Medical Center, Pine Ridge.
Hiring the right moving company is important. Best Moving and Storage is a family-owned and operated business serving Southwest Florida for over 22 years. From our free in-home estimate until the last piece of furniture is in your new place or stored in our climate-controlled warehouse, we treat you like family. Best Moving and Storage is fully licensed and insured, with all of our employees being certified drivers and packers. When it comes to protecting your treasured belongings, choose a company that's experienced and trustworthy. Call Best Moving and Storage today at 239-592-6565.
My name is Steve Unser, and cabinetry is my specialty. I have been creating custom designed cabinetry for 20 years in Southwest Florida, and now I am celebrating the grand opening of our new Naples showroom. Steve Unser Cabinetry will help you design your kitchen, bath, or home office with stunning results, offering the best quality of cabinets with a wide variety of design options and pricing to fit any budget. If your kitchen isn't becoming to you, you should be coming to us. Now, 2 locations to serve you.
Hip problems are on the rise, and so are hip replacements. At the same time, doctors find themselves treating younger, more active patients who would like to find a simpler way to ease their pain. Here's the latest in this week's Positively Healthy. Given the option, most patients would like to avoid a total joint replacement. Now, when it comes to the hip, some of them may be able to sidestep a major operation.
What we do typically is find patients who are on their way to developing hip arthritis. And that usually occurs as a result of either a torn cartilage in the hip or a slightly misshapen ball or socket that leads to abnormal contact between the bones. What happens then is those patients go on to develop hip arthritis relatively rapidly, and they're more likely to need a hip replacement before the age of 55.
On average, they're younger patients who typically present with groin pain that gets worse with activity and better with rest.
That pain will continue to increase until it's present nearly constantly.
If caught at the right time, doctors may be able to ease their suffering through the use of hip arthroscopy.
Hip arthroscopy is essentially placing a camera inside the hip joint, and it allows you to treat conditions.
Using a small camera and surgical tools inserted through small fingernail-sized poke holes, doctors go in and repair the damage.
We'll change the shape of either the ball or the socket to prevent the bones from hitting each other. We also have something that's equivalent to drywall anchors. It goes in the bone, it expands, and it has sutures in it and allows me to repair the torn cartilage.
One or all of these can be performed in a single, relatively brief procedure. While it's still fairly new, the hipper option comes with a lot of optimism.
We're starting to see these outcomes now, and we're starting to have the long-term data. And from what we see, this is very effective in reducing the need for hip replacement in appropriate patients.
They rock the red carpet like royals. People with special needs in Southwest Florida enjoyed a prom night they'll never forget. The dozen women who attended in Naples were treated to hair, makeup, manicures, and party dresses, courtesy of the Florida Academy Beauty School and the Tim Tebow Foundation. The foundation created the nationwide Night to Shine event, giving people with special needs a chance to dress up and enjoy a formal dance. Night to Shine is open to people 14 and older. This year, attendees were given the option of arriving in a limo or a horse-drawn carriage. Our Jennifer Beeson has more on this story. You can check it out at naplesnews.com. On to more stories that are still in progress. Here's what's happening on the beat.
Thanks, Amy. So this week we're going to be taking a look at wildfire season. We're about a year from when two really devastating fires took out a lot of land in eastern Collier County. And since then there's been some new rules enacted, including how much landowners can keep, how much debris landowners can keep before they have to clear it out, and new lanes that they have to dig to allow fire trucks to get into certain properties to be able to put out fires once they start. So we're keeping an eye on to see how well prepared we are, if we're better prepared this year than we were last year. So you can find out more about that at naplesnews.com.
Hi, I'm Ashley Collins. I'm a reporter with the Collier Citizen. This past week I got a chance to meet 7 outstanding JROTC cadets who were honored by the Sons of the American Revolution Naples chapter earlier this week. 3 of them actually read essays aloud during this award ceremony, and one of them got the Outstanding Cadet Award. Her name is Samantha from Naples High, and she has an amazing GPA. I think it was 4.7, and she speaks 5 languages, and she shared her story about coming to America after living in Europe for so long and starting out at JROTC her freshman year and building her career with them during her junior year as a battalion leader. For more on this story, visit naplesnews.com.
Hi, I'm Shelby Reynolds. I'm a features reporter at the Naples Daily News. This last week I got to visit the Naples Botanical Garden as they set up their new dinosaur exhibit. This is a traveling exhibit of 10 different dinosaurs. There's several raptors, a Diabloceratops, and even, of course, a T-Rex. These will be on display until June 3rd, and they move around. One of them even squirts water. They roar and hiss and make all kinds of noises. So the kids will love it, and it's definitely something to check out if you are a garden lover yourself. You can find that story in yesterday's Naples Daily News or online at naplesnews.com.
One more stop before we exit the newsroom. It's Brent Batten with our weekly commentary. Brent.
Thanks, Amy. I guess the International Olympic Committee really lowered the boom on Russia. The committee banned the country from the 2018 Winter Olympics. That sends a strong message that years of state-sponsored cheating won't be tolerated at the world's premier athletic gallery. No, sir, Russia will be banished. Right. You may have noticed alongside country abbreviations like USA and GER, a new country, OAR. OAR stands for Olympic Athlete from Russia. So, Russians aren't allowed to compete, but Olympic athletes from Russia are. There are nearly as many Olympic athletes from Russia at the Games in Korea as there were in Russians in past Winter Olympics. So basically, the IOC ban doesn't mean Russians can't compete. It just means they have to be called Olympic athletes from Russia rather than Russians. One wonders if this harsh punishment extends to other parts of the Russian contingent. Must we call the Russian fans, who reportedly are turning out in droves to show support for their beleaguered team, Olympic fans from Russia? Are there Olympic trainers from Russia? You can hear the play-by-play now. The Olympic coach from Russia is dialing up his best play here in the final seconds of this hockey game between the United States and the Olympic athletes from Russia. The Olympic fans from Russia are going crazy. The Olympic athletes from Russia win the face-off. She shoots, she scores. The Olympic athletes from Russia win. It's not the Russians who are being punished, it's the announcers. And also, the Olympic fans from around the world that have to pretend that cheating won't be tolerated by the International Olympic Committee. I'm Brent Batten. Be sure to read my column on Sundays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays in the Naples Daily News. Check me out on Facebook, and as always, thanks for watching.
Coming up, we've talked a lot about shrinking, downsizing, and economy. They all apply here, only we're talking about vacation rentals that are hot, hot, hot. That's ahead on Behind the Headlines.
Shop Bear's President's Weekend Sale. Don't miss spectacular values like these. Your choice, all for just $9.97. This coastal-inspired 5-piece dining set. Or how about this beautiful crafted queen bed by Bernhardt? Even luxurious, genuine leather Natuzzi sleepers, now just $9.97. Plus, half off Bernhardt's hottest new collection, Profile. Don't miss your chance to get the lowest prices of the year on all Tommy Bahama and Lexington designs. Bear's President's Weekend Sale.
The area's only 30 minutes or less ER service pledge means you'll find less waiting for the care you need. And because we're full-service hospitals, a lot more care if you need it. Less waiting, faster care. Only at Physicians Regional Healthcare System.
Is your auto insurance keeping pace with your life? Ask for a AAA Triple Check Insurance Review to see if your current policy is still a good fit. An agent will assess changes in your life, like new vehicles or drivers. Make sure you've got the right coverage and all the discounts you deserve. They'll also see how a AAA membership can round out your protection on the road. Plus, provide roadside assistance, discounts, free services, and vacation extras. Ask for your AAA Triple Check today.
Life here is amazing, and so is the joint care. At the Total Joint Center at Physicians Regional Healthcare System, we've changed the experience of joint replacement for good. With our comprehensive joint care program, most hip and knee replacement patients return home in just 2 days, because we know you want to get on with your active life. Pain-free living starts at Physicians Regional Medical Center, Collier Boulevard, and Physicians Regional Medical Center, Pine Ridge.
They're a huge trend, but when it comes to square footage, not so much. Tiny cottages are proving to be a popular destination on Pine Island. Micro homes in Matlacha's tiny village are booked until April. Pretty surprising since the grand opening was the beginning of February. Tourists from Europe, Canada, and across the U.S. are paying good money to squeeze into a cottage about the size of a garage. The minimalist style makes them really efficient, not to mention cool. The city of Cape Coral is looking at rewriting codes to allow for some slightly larger tiny homes. You can read all about it by checking out Sarah Jarvis' story at news-press.com. Finally today, from fast cars to fresh food, it was a good weekend to enjoy the great outdoors. Last Saturday, the always popular Cars on 5th took over Naples' main drag. Sponsored by the Ferrari Club of America, the street show featured more than 125 Ferraris, along with some Porsches and other exotic cars. This is the 14th annual showing. The pictures are amazing, being there in person, even better. Just miles down US 41 and a world away, thousands turned out for the Everglades Seafood Festival held in Everglades City. The city's mayor promised the event would go on as planned despite the area being devastated by Hurricane Irma. As you can expect, there were piles and platters of stone crab, shrimp, lobster, and alligator prepared in almost every way imaginable. The old Florida-style party also included live music, arts, crafts, and merchandise. The Seafood Fest is a big moneymaker for the local economy. That brings us to the end of this edition of Behind the Headlines. Thank you for watching. You can always catch up on past shows by logging on to naplesnews.com. On the left-hand side under Quick Links, select Behind the Headlines. I'm Amy Osher. See you back here next week.